All right, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to investigate a forgotten metropolis hidden right beneath the agricultural fields of northern India. It's a site that is actively, and I mean literally as we speak, rewriting ancient history. Now, when we picture the great ancient societies, our minds usually jump straight to those massive stone pyramids or the famous ruins that have dominated our history books for generations. But today, we're looking at a sleeping giant. It's a place called Rakhigarhi. For thousands of years, this sprawling ancient metropolis remained entirely buried beneath the earth, completely unnoticed and overshadowed. But the giant is finally waking up, and the evidence archaeologists are uncovering right now could completely transform everything we thought we knew about humanity's earliest urban origins. So if you know anything at all about the Indus Valley Civilization, the names Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa are the absolute heavyweights, right? They're the legends. But recent systematic mapping has revealed something honestly shocking. Rakhigarhi is actually larger. Just pause and think about that for a second. We are talking about a city that was potentially the largest urban center of its entire civilization, yet it remains virtually unknown to the general public. It's a staggering realization that completely shifts our historical map. And that forces us to ask a pretty baffling question. How on earth could a vast network of ancient mounds and artifacts hide such a sprawling metropolis in plain sight for thousands of years? Well, for a long time, local communities actually knew something was out there. Early surveys turned up scattered pottery and ancient bricks. But without systematic excavation, honestly, it just looked like a series of large hills covered in vegetation and local farms. It turns out humanity's largest ancient metropolis was hiding right under local agriculture. It wasn't until archaeologists truly started mapping these mounds that they realized they weren't just looking at some small settlement. No, they were looking at an absolute behemoth of ancient urban life. To really wrap our heads around the magnitude of this discovery, we first need to define the scale of the Indus Valley Civilization itself. At its peak, this was among the largest and most advanced civilizations on Earth. It covered enormous territory across modern-day Pakistan and India. Within this massive network, cities served as vital centers of trade, administration, and culture, linking together incredibly diverse and distant regions. And Rakhigarhi? Well, it appears to have been one of the absolute major hubs holding this entire interconnected network together. Okay, here's where it gets absolutely wild. The sheer level of advanced urban planning at Rakhigarhi is astounding. We're talking about wide, highly organized streets, standardized brick houses, and incredibly advanced drainage systems. They even had specific dedicated areas for craft production and carefully planned out neighborhoods. But here is the most fascinating part by far. They managed all of this complex urban infrastructure while completely lacking the monumental kings, the palaces, and the grand royal tombs we see in places like ancient Egypt or Mesopotamia. It's like the ultimate ancient bureaucracy, but somehow without a king in sight. So instead of a society revolving around royalty or some absolute ruler, the archaeological evidence at Rakhigarhi points to a thriving, perhaps more egalitarian society, fueled entirely by ordinary people. It was an environment where craftsmen were busy producing exquisite beads, pottery, ornaments, and tools, farmers were successfully cultivating crops to support a booming urban population, and merchants were trading goods across vast distances. These folks weren't just surviving the ancient world, they were thriving in a highly specialized, deeply connected economic machine. But this brilliant organization actually illustrates a massive gap in our knowledge. We can clearly see they were an incredibly structured community, right? The city streets and those standardized bricks prove that beyond a doubt. Yet, because we don't have the royal decrees or monumental statues found in other cultures, we still don't know exactly how they governed themselves. We don't know what language they spoke. We have no idea what stories they told around the fire. And we really don't know exactly how they managed such a vast, peaceful, and interconnected urban network. That profound mystery basically remained locked tight until very recently, when Rakhigarhi made global headlines for a discovery that extended way beyond traditional archaeology. Scientists working at the site managed to successfully extract and analyze ancient DNA from skeletal remains found right there in the city's burial grounds. And let me tell you, this was an absolute game changer. Suddenly, we weren't just looking at the bricks they fired or the streets they walked on. We were looking directly into the biological blueprints of the people themselves. This DNA analysis was aimed at answering a question that had fiercely divided scholars for decades. where did the people who built the Indus civilization actually come from? Because for a really long time, historians and archaeologists engaged in these intense, heated debates about their origins and how, or even if, they were related to the later populations of South Asia. It was a giant historical puzzle, and it had massive implications for human history. And the crucial resolution to this puzzle? Well, the DNA evidence revealed a strong, direct genetic link between the ancient inhabitants of Rakhigarhi and millions of people living in South Asia today. The ancient DNA provided definitive, clear evidence of genetic continuity, meaning the people of Rakhigarhi didn't just vanish into the sands of time, their descendants are literally still here. This site isn't just revealing ancient history anymore, it's actively helping us understand the ancestral origins of a massive portion of the global population living today. This genetic evidence totally shattered the old historical narrative. For a long time, outdated theories relied heavily on tales of dramatic, sudden invasions to explain cultural shifts in the ancient world. But the DNA evidence from Rakhigarhi proved instead a complex pattern of local development and gradual migration over thousands of years. It tells a much richer story of a resilient people adapting and evolving locally, rather than just being conquered and replaced by outside invaders. Now prepare to have your mind blown again. Astonishingly, all these groundbreaking discoveries, the advanced urban planning, the standardized bricks, the global headline-making DNA revelations, all of this comes from just a tiny, tiny sliver of the city. While we've learned an incredible amount, several massive mounds at Rakhigarhi still lie largely untouched, resting quietly beneath the vegetation and active farmland. We have barely even scratched the surface of this colossal site. Archaeologists firmly believe these massive, untouched areas could contain some of the most important discoveries yet. We're talking about entirely preserved hidden neighborhoods, ancient workshops with the tools still sitting inside, massive storage facilities that could tell us all about their economy, and entirely unseen public buildings. Any one of these unexcavated mounds might hold the key, maybe a bilingual inscription or a brand new type of artifact that finally unlocks their lost language and culture. Looking at all that incredible potential, you might understandably be wondering, well, why haven't we simply dug up these remaining mounds to uncover all their secrets? I mean, if the largest city of the ancient world is sitting right there, why aren't thousands of people out there with shovels right now? The reality is, traditional excavation is an incredibly delicate and resource-intensive process. It requires massive funding, teams of highly trained specialists, and intense conservation efforts. The second you pull an artifact out of the ground and expose it to the air, it begins to degrade. If we rush it, we risk destroying the exact history we're trying so hard to save. Archaeology isn't just about digging a hole. It's about painstakingly documenting every single millimeter of dirt. But modern archaeology is completely changing the game. We're now using incredible new technologies to map these buried secrets without turning over a single ancient brick. Researchers can now use ground-penetrating radar to detect structures deep underground. They use satellite imagery to reveal hidden landscape patterns that are totally invisible from the ground. And finally, they use 3D digital modeling to virtually reconstruct the ancient city. It basically gives us X-ray vision, allowing us to explore Rakhigarhi safely and effectively step by step. Plus, there's actually a really beautiful philosophy at work here. By intentionally leaving large parts of Rakhigarhi undisturbed, we are preserving this ancient time capsule for the future. We're waiting for the next generation of researchers who are undoubtedly going to have even better, less invasive technology to solve these long-standing mysteries. Every technological advance brings us closer to understanding a world that disappeared over 4,000 years ago, and we really owe it to the future to leave some of that mystery intact for them to solve. So, as this forgotten giant continues to awaken, as its streets, its artifacts, and its ancient DNA actively reshape our entire understanding of human origins, we are left with a profound sense of awe. Rakhigarhi was larger than Mohenjo-Daro, yet it slept unnoticed for centuries. So, as we look at those unexcavated mounds stretching across the horizon, we really have to ask ourselves, what earth-shattering secrets about civilization, culture, and our very origins are still waiting right there, just beneath the soil?